juicier joints, better sexual health, more energy, more vitality,
better skin.
Who wouldn't want all of those things? Hello, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
We're so glad you're here. We have so many gems to drop today. Robert has been tirelessly working on the content and science behind.
It's been a challenge.
He didn't sleep last night, but we're super excited to be here. In honor of the launch of the Hydrate podcast, we wanted to give everybody a free webinar with the man himself, Robert Slovack. I mean, come on. Who else?
And this is how I prepare a podcast. Okay.
Yeah, let's see.
We can't. This was more ambitious.
Show
perhaps.
Your book.
And I'll consider this a trial run of one of the most extensive podcasts ever. And this is the material that we put together.
We're not selling stories here.
Yeah.
We're sharing science.
This is the real deal we're going to try to follow, but let's say
there's a lot of stories being sold in the water industry.
Oh, it is I'd say it's one of the most corrupt of all the health paradigms is just the selling of water, and it upsets me. A lot of misinformation. Mm-hmm. People are very somehow naturally gullible about water. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure what that's about, but they are. And, landmarks in this is the first one I think I really upset me was alkaline water. Mm-hmm. When that came out, I'm going, what? First time I heard that. And of course, that was probably 7 or 8 years ago. And I tried to make people aware alkaline water was really not something to pursue or even significant. Alkalizing the body is important.
Yes.
And that's one of the ways they purvey a misconception is, oh, your body needs to be alkaline.
Right.
You need to alkalize. You need to get rid of the metabolic acids. So, hey, what's better than alkaline water?
But it doesn't translate.
90% of the people fall for it.
Yeah.
So.
We're talking about alkaline blood. Well, you don't even want your blood alkaline.
Oh, yeah, I do.
You want it the perfect, like a
7.35 to 7.45.
Okay,
that's the perfect.
There we got the perfect 7.35 to 7.45. But that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen by drinking alkaline water.
It is not going to happen. It's just too little.
Yeah.
So what helps it get there is complicated things, is alkalinity.
Yeah.
That does help. And other things, basically, the complete mineral compounds are generally how you govern that. Mm-hmm. You take water rich in minerals, mm-hmm. a diet rich in minerals. And I don't know if you're ready to kind of go into alkalizing the body.
Well, since we started talking about it, might as well right now then.
Well, one of the things I want people to know about is something called PROL, okay? Potential renal acid load. That's how a real scientifically oriented nutritionist determines how to keep your body alkaline in the proper range. So when you eat foods, they are consumed and metabolized, and they produce acids or alkalinity. Mm-hmm. And your body balances those for the whole purpose of maintaining the blood at 7.35 to 7.45. It's incredibly accurate mm-hmm. in doing that. And it struggles sometimes. If you eat an all meat diet of protein, your body's going to just do everything it can to neutralize acid.
Yes.
And one of the things it will do, if it can't get you to stop, it starts turning into something that dissolves your bones because it wants the minerals. It's not going to give up. And that can lead to neuropathy and lupus and a variety of other chronic diseases when your body can't keep up with alkalizing your blood, and it's struggling all the time.
So we're not able to alkalize the blood with just water alone. Can you explain that whole process?
Well, you could do it with water that's carries sufficient alkalinity. Like, do you know the water that's used all for, I don't know, I think it's 300 years, Gerolsteiner? Do you know this water? Mm-hmm. I think they sell it at Trader Joe's and mm-hmm. various other places. Yeah. But Gerolsteiner has like 1,800 parts per million of alkalinity. And so it is capable of delivering that to you. And that would probably be enough if you kept getting into trouble with, you know, your body struggling with having to maintain an alkaline pH blood. So waters can do it, but it's not the pH. Notice I said alkalinity.
Yeah.
So it's, I used to make t-shirts. It's not alkaline, it's alkalinity.
Yes. So explain that, because there's a difference between alkaline water and alkalinity.
Yeah. So the correct thing would be there's a difference between alkaline water and water with alkalinity. So alkaline water just means its pH is over 7, okay? But the pH alone doesn't tell you how good a buffer it is. And the buffer is the capacity part. The pH is the degree part, pH 8, pH 9. But if it doesn't have capacity, that pH 8 or 9 is going to be gone with a drop of lemon juice. It doesn't have the capacity. I sometimes am successful in explaining or making a metaphor or analogy to temperature. Just the temperature of something doesn't tell how good it can heat your home. Mm-hmm. Okay? So if we take a temperature that, let's say a standard temperature that wood burns at and paper, 451 degrees Fahrenheit, after the famous movie by, I can't remember, Ray Bradbury. Paper and wood burned at 451 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so you might, if I just asked you, hey, Steve, how's 450, you came in for a heater for your home, how's 451 degrees Fahrenheit do? You know, it's the temperature at which wood burns and paper burns. You go, well, I think that's more than enough. And so I sell you a pack of matches. I go, each one of those will burn at 451 degrees Fahrenheit. So what's missing? It's buffering. And we call buffering in the world of heat output. Okay? So one match is 1 BTU, but a fireplace is 50,000 BTU, both burning at 451 degrees Fahrenheit. So in a solution of water, both could be at a pH of 9, but one has very little buffering. That could be neutralized by a drop of lemon, and one could really take on the acids
or the body's stomach acid.
Body. Or the body. And you know, and that's part of the alkaline response that is called the alkaline tide. Mm-hmm. It's a good thing for people to look up. Alkaline tide is when you overcome the acid in the body, in the stomach. That's what baking soda treatment is all about. You know, when people just use baking soda to alkalize, you overcome the acid in the stomach. The parietal cells, which line the stomach and make the acid, they respond quickly to make more acid because they're going, oh, this is our job. We got to always keep it at a low pH. And in doing so, they create bicarbonate alkalinity in the bloodstream, called the alkaline tide. Mm-hmm.
I love that.
I love it too.
I love how our bodies are so intelligent.
Crazy.
They know exactly what to do, right? We can just, yes. That's why I think it's a little ridiculous to think that we could just put a water with a certain pH in our body and think it's going to change the alkalinity of our blood, because our body has those buffering systems in it with the stomach acid. It knows what to do already. So
now,
go ahead.
Do you have anything more on alkalinity?
I think there's a lot more we can talk about with alkalinity. We could go on and on about it.
So 1, it's important to alkalize your body. 2, I do want you to know about PRAL. Okay, it's a measurement. That's called potential renal acid load. Okay, and it's simply a list of foods, and it gives you the degree to which they alkalize or acidify the body. Okay. All right, and this is important. And that by balancing all that, it has foods from butter to Budweiser. I mean, there's like long lists. You can look it up. And each one has a different number for a given amount of volume or mass of the particular food. So if it's positive, if the number is positive right off the bat, it will acidify the body. And that would be something like, you know, you're going to see all the proteins, meats, fish, all that are in that category. And there's some surprises in there. Great to look at it. potential renal acid load. And then you see the negative numbered ones, and those alkalize the body when they're metabolized. So you see all the vegetables in there, and some surprises too, like one of the most alkalizing foods that I wasn't ready for was raisins.
Yeah, and you can print that out. If you go online and print it out, I used to have it hanging up in my pantry in my kitchen, just so that I could have an awareness of it, and I think that can be really helpful for some people.
I want you to know that the industries of deception have printed their own pH charts and food charts.
Okay, that's good to know.
For instance, the alkaline water industry printed one. There was some member of the alkaline water group that made up one. And he had it versus pH, the food versus pH, okay? And it was all wrong. He did not understand. He had like all the vegetables and broccoli, celery, and so on, like in the alkaline area and in the alkaline pH. But in fact, virtually every like green vegetable, if you were to juice it and mix it up and squeeze it out, its fluids would be acid, okay? And yet it alkalizes the body. And it alkalizes it because it's so rich in minerals, okay? And so it's the opposite of this chart. And I remember at some convention many years ago, I went to a guy who was selling alkaline ionizers, and I said, do you see this chart? It's like a crazy chart. It's like totally made up. It's totally unscientific. And he looked at me and he goes, I made that chart. It was very embarrassing, and we didn't get along for the rest of the show. But it dramatizes how much the industry uses its bakery to do business. So
let's talk a little bit about ionizers.
Okay.
Do we even want to go there? Because it can get real.
Well, we can. I actually have.
What are alkaline ionizers? What do they do?
Okay, so they use a process of, and they've been out for, I'm going to guess 20 years. Probably the most famous is Kangen and so on and so on. And they use a very scientific process called electrolysis that separates the water's ionic content into an alkalizing water, or alkaline water, I shouldn't say alkalizing. It's easy to lose it. An alkaline water and an acidic water. And that just maintains the balance. And so you're supposed to drink the alkaline water, which is supposed to alkalize the body, which it doesn't. And they added to it the effects of it, like, hey, it not just delivers water with an alkaline pH, but it microclusters the water, okay? And I never bought into the microclustering thing for several reasons. One is microclustering would be forcing or manipulating the molecules of water to take certain group shapes, okay? And
Don't they have to go into the cell single file?
Well, that's true. They said this was more hydrating, and this is not true. I mean, many people, this gets into our structured water kind of area too. So microclusters and structured water. Now, structured water, there is definitely structured water, which we're going to cover, okay? And then there's structured water that's kind of bogus. And the part that's bogus of structured water is when you're talking about how molecules of water molecules, H2O, how they configure themselves. And people imagine, and they do, they go into hexagonal shells. Remember hexagonal water, one of the first and most popular. And then some people say, hey, water should be 3 to 5 molecule groups. People gave all kinds of clustering fabrication. But in the end, and they said these clusters are recognized by the cell and water goes in these clusters faster. But all the aquaporins do take water in single file. About, well, let me ask you this. Do you know how many molecules per second go through an aquaporin?
Ooh, I don't. Per second?
Per second.
I have no idea.
You don't want to guess?
I don't even
About
know.
1 billion.
Oh, per second? Oh, that would have been far off.
So, I mean, if they were anything but, they have to get in single file
Yeah.
to do it. So,
so they're
water,
going in single file, and there's about 1 billion per second.
Yeah. Per aquaporin. Okay.
Per aquaporin. Okay. That alone is.
I mean, it's so dramatic. I mean, nature, we can't conceive of how small a molecule is. So, but molecules in water do take arrangements.
Yeah.
And it's very fickle. I mean, like the way molecules arrange in water is like a class of children going to a new playground. Okay. It's like chaotic and madness.
Mm-hmm,
all right.
Mm-hmm.
And you know it a lot better than I do. And and they're changing all the time. They're at a different playground device, you know, at the whim of their minds.
Yeah.
So water is constantly, I mean, sometimes it's hexagonal, sometimes it's linear. And in fact, Stanford and I think it was Penn State, they were like, there was like a period of years in which they were arguing. One said that water naturally lines up in linear fashion, and the other one said it was, I can't remember, some kind of a cluster with X amount of molecules. They couldn't agree on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's because water is simply changing forever.
Yeah.
In every way, because of all the things you can do with water, all the influences from temperature to
Right.
pH to the ions in the water.
Yeah.
So
it's dancing. It's a constant
it's a dance.
moving.
It's a dance.
Yeah.
So can we get back to, I'd like to start getting back to something since you mentioned the word dance. Okay.
Where do you want to go?
So I wanted them to see that first slide. I just want you to know where our heads are at with water and why we're even doing this. And it's because of, it's in honor perhaps a little bit of Martin Chaplin, one of the most astute and accomplished water scientists in the world. He's British. And he made this, one of my favorite statements: liquid water is not a bit player in the theater of life, it's the headline act. I want to take this opportunity, I've never done this in a talk before, right? This, what I'm about to do, is because it's so new, is that there wasn't just, you can see this screen, there wasn't just the H protium 2O, there was also water that was, you see the little, well, they can't see me, they see the little 2 at the H? That's the deuterium. We could, some people just make that a D instead of an H, all right? I mean, there's a lot of nomenclature used in this business. So water, there was deuterium then, as I showed you in the Big Bang, that was, the deuteron was made. So it formed with oxygen, and those two,
the evil twin.
Those two became the content of all water on Earth. Mm-hmm, okay. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And no one discovered that second one.
Yeah.
Until 1931.
1931? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
All right.
I thought it was more.
No, they discovered what it was all about, but they knew.
They knew what it was.
They knew what it was.
But it's not until more recently that we found out what it does to the nanomotors,
the 60s.
The mitochondria.
Yeah, even more recent.
Yeah, this is very new.
So take a look at this, because deuterium is going to change your world within the next 10 years. Just our knowledge of it. Next.
Yeah, just Google that word deuterium.
So this is just a pretty illustration, and we normally call regular H2O, where the H is the single proton and electron, or call it protium. Two of those plus an oxygen, that's called light water in the world of health and chemistry. And if you notice, if there's just one hydrogen, one protium, and one deuterium with oxygen, in other words, two different ones, a deuteron plus a regular proton, that makes HDO. That's heavy water. Now, some people, I just want you to know, because when you start reading, also there's another heavy water that uses that incorporates two deuterium or two deuterons, okay, in the water, in the water molecule. So that that is also called heavy water. So some people, you may read something that the HDO is semi-heavy water, and the D2O is heavy water. Yeah. So, and you can see how little there is. 1 in 41 million water molecules is a D2O. But the heavy water, the HDO water.
Well, actually, if you're looking at when you're talking about 1 billion molecules go through single file into the aquaporin every second, that's kind of a large number.
Yeah.
In relativity, it matters.
Yeah, and both of those things would go in through at a different rate.
Okay.
One's twice as heavy. I mean, well, no, they take that back. The water molecule is not twice as heavy. It's just the hydrogens that it's made of is twice as heavy. So, but in fact, you are correct in saying that if water molecule contains a deuteron, it slows down the activity of that water in chemical reactions. Okay?
Yeah.
And modern pharmaceuticals actually use deuterium, add it to things like chemotherapeutic drugs and various other things, so they don't
skincare and things like that.
Yeah.
Heavy water.
Right. They don't add. What's the product? Cell food contains.
Yes, deuterium. It does.
It contains deuterium.
I didn't know
sulfate.
that until recently.
Yeah.
But it's such a small, minute amount.
It's a small amount. I don't know how they can justify it or why, but anyway, let's keep going on.
And to buy heavy water is actually it's not pretty expensive.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's only sold in like laboratory amounts. Yeah. Okay. So what happened? You have an earth that's covered with water. You have a crust underneath. You have a crust underneath that's cooling.
Water.
You have a crust underneath that's cooling. And all those elements, maybe not all, are fairly soluble in that water. And they begin to make a solution. The water is tearing them apart from their compounds in the crust. It's dissolving them. They're becoming ions. And they dissolve to about 33 grams per liter. Okay? 33 grams per liter. That's seawater.
Yeah, seawater.
Okay, you're looking at a very rich solution.
Yes.
Very rich solution. And so that's what happens. You form this primordial ocean. Now, we would think if we just were looking at another planet that happened on, we would think, what? That's like that. That's so concentrated, nothing could live in that. But it did. Okay, it did. In fact, that's where life began. That was the chosen place for the beginning of life. Go ahead. So here's what it took to make life. So we said that water that came from comets and the mantle, that water covered the earth by 4.2 million years. Not 4.2 million years, 4.2 billion years ago. Billion.
Can I ask you a question?
Okay.
When they come up with these numbers, billions of years and stuff, like really how is that defined? Like how do they quantify?
There are many ways to approach it. They study various things, like how fast the stars are moving away. They test the amount of isotopes of certain kinds in the earth. I mean, this is like a big thing that goes on, a big world cooperation.
Yeah.
And from that, you can say, oh, this matches up with this, and this has this much isotope left, and we know how fast it decays. You add up all this information, and you nail it pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay? And I know it can create some problems with special creation and evolution and so on, but I'm sticking to the evolution.
Yeah.
And I used to.
I mean, I know because I take more of the biblical standpoint of seeing like, okay, the Bible and it was created in 7 days, whatever. But also I'm open-minded to realize that maybe 7 days isn't really 7 days. You know, it could be in the biblical standards, 7 days could have been like, you know, billions of years.
And I see it differently.
You know,
but even though really it's the same thing.
We don't know.
I believe my answer, what convinced me was I said, you know what? If God created all of this, he was like one of the greatest jokesters that ever existed because there are so many mistakes in evolution.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem like a godly thing, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, we had tails at one time, we had different things, and all animal species, they went in and out of the ocean, went back again. I mean, that's like science, unless he planted that somehow.
It's a lot of things that don't make sense.
A lot of things don't make sense. Yeah. But anyway, it took the solution.
But that's for another time. Right now, we're going to focus on the science of the water. Okay.
So it took a solution of the periodic table in specific proportions, because they all had unique solubilities. It took organic molecules that were formed in the volcanic vents from the heat of the interior of the earth. It took atmospheric gas mixtures, because there was hydrogen, methane, and ammonia. Bingo. And then electrical and magnetic and photonic energies. No one knows how all that mixed up, but it created the first cellular life.
Gives me chills, though. It's all so beautiful when you think about it. You know, it really is. The Earth's magnetism,
exactly.
the photons, and how everything's come together to make us who we are, these light beings that we are, right? I mean, it's just incredible.
And of course, I'm sure there's a godly element that's so profound we haven't figured it out.
Well, I think one of the reasons why we have figured it out is so we know that we need to seek God and reach for God and pray to God and ask for wisdom, because if we knew all these things, then we would be God.
I know.
Right? So
go ahead. Okay, so there's life. Oh, there's life. Done. That's all we need. But that was 3.8 billion years ago.
Done.
I just want you people to take it. This is an overview of what we just discussed. On the left-hand side, Earth started at 5 billion years, okay? Water covers the Earth at roughly 4.2 billion years. Cellular life begins at about 3.8 billion years ago. And look when the first land came up. It didn't come up for all that time, that at about 2.8 billion years, land emerges from the ocean.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you just said something really key right there. Land emerged from the ocean. Everything began from sea.
Everything began from the sea.
Yeah.
And so life, everything developed at the beginning in the ocean, and then land came up. But look at where the blue rectangle goes. Okay, that blue rectangle is about 750. No, it's about almost 3 billion years. Okay, that's the space of the length of that rectangle. That rectangle represents how long life only was in the ocean. Okay, I mean that was one of the most insane things I've ever learned.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until 400 million years ago, and we're talking 5 billion, right? 400 million is nothing. It wasn't until 500 million years ago, plants emerged on land. I mean, all this is so complex. And then maybe 100 million years later. To say
the least, all of this is so complex.
Is it snowing you?
It's just, it makes me so excited and so humbled to realize like that everything is so finite, infinite, and we don't understand it, and we need God. We need to, we have to seek, because it's just too much. It's too much, right?
Agreed.
But the things that we can that we do know now, we can take this, and I think that the seawater is something that's so key. Like if anybody could take home a nugget today from all the things we're talking about, is that we did evolve from the sea, and that like even when you're in your mother's uterus and all of that amniotic fluid,
it's seawater,
basically seawater that you were evolving and growing in. And if your mother has any mineral deficiencies, then whichever
it's
you're
probably
growing
the most
going to affect the
serious condition no one talks about.
The most serious, and that's why I'm so passionate about it, because when I was pregnant for my first daughter, I had barely any amniotic fluid, and I needed to have an emergency cesarean because at one point she had only 2 centimeters of amniotic fluid, and and that affected her health. It affected my health. We both almost
died. And he didn't get it.
And
the doctor didn't get it.
The doctor didn't get it, and we had no idea why my amniotic fluid was so low. And now, in retrospect, through all the things that I've uncovered, I realize now that I had a mineral deficiency, severe mineral deficiency, and most people are not aware of this.
And we're talking about over 70 minerals and trace elements.
Yeah, about
you
78,
see, it's not just like your calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium, iron type of thing.
We go back to the periodic table and we see these trace elements that need to be in our system.
Except for the gases on that table, there is a function for everyone in your body.
Yeah.
And science hasn't paid attention to it, and medicine doesn't know it.
That's what we evolved from. So it's just something to point out.
So I just want to tell you, one of the great things is that all those elements have a relationship to one another. It's very complex. And this is a cool graph. Some people describe it as, they call it the mineral wheel and so on, but only a few, just because you couldn't put all 70 plus minerals and trace elements on there. But that shows you each one influences the other. That's why you have to have the totality.
Yes.
Nothing beats seawater composition for its contribution to your health, because it determined your design and your function of your cells more than any other single. There's nothing close.
This is such an important concept.
A profound concept.
It's so profound. This can be life-changing for so many people, because if they're missing any of these elements, it's going to affect everything in their biochemistry. And
it's so easy to get them. And no one knows.
And it's going to affect your DNA, your RNA. It's going to affect your epigenetic, how everything's evolving inside of your body, gene expression.
Okay, go ahead.
So let's move on.
So I actually say, and I want you to memorize this, really, nothing, tell your doctor, hey, doctor, do you know that nothing influenced the origin, design, the structure and function of multicellular life throughout all evolution more than the sea? Seawater is the medium and architect of all life on Earth.
Yeah.
So we know what the proof is, everybody. Your blood plasma, your body fluids are just diluted seawater.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Diluted seawater. The isotonic.
It's isotonic seawater.
Isotonic seawater. Gosh, wish I would have known this when I was pregnant.
So
all you pregnant women out there.
All you pregnant women,
you can be having some beautiful, smart babies.
Please, and this is the man that actually taught us this, Rene Quinton.
Rene Quinton, this is my hero.
And he said
wish I could interview
the only way cellular life could even leave the ocean was to take the ocean with it, and that's why our blood plasma and body fluids are just an isotonic form of seawater.
This is beautiful.
So here's what we are: 60 to 70% of us. That's our body weight.
Okay, wait. Let's go back to this, because this confuses people. We say we're 60 to 70% of us.
By weight.
So let's break that down just a little bit, because we're 98.9 approximately percent molecular.
98.8% of the molecules that make up our water, and the other molecules are molecules.
But they're heavier. Water molecules are so tiny. So that's why
absolutely they're heavier. The bone molecules are heavier, etc.
So that's why these numbers are different. Because sometimes you can hear, 98% water molecules, and then it's like we're 60 to 70% water. It doesn't make sense.
So we're 60 to 70% by weight. In other words, if you squeeze yourself out like a sponge.
Yeah. You took all the water out of your body.
If you took all the water, total body water, it's called, it would have been 60 to 70% of your weight, your total weight on the scale.
Right.
And that is, and it's very difficult to calculate how many molecules, what percent of the body. It was done by scientists to figure it out. But you can weigh yourself, and I guess you could cremate yourself and then weigh what's left over.
Oh gosh. Okay. Yeah, we don't want to do that for testing purposes.
No.
Let's say hi to my cousin Steve over here. He's one of my favorite people. Peptide expert over here. PA, partner in the hydration. the hydration clinic that we have here in San Diego. So that's why it just looks weird. We keep looking over and talking to him. This is
yes, I know.
You see the resemblance? We're cousins. Actually, not blood cousins, but through marriage. All right, let's go back. Let's talk more about the science. Okay, so now we understand we're 60 to 70% water. So this is very important, water, isn't it? It's a very important subject. And so if we're getting misinformation and we don't understand things and maybe we're not educated on this, it can affect our lives very dramatically. So I believe personally that it's something that we need to take a little time, or we could benefit from taking time to learn more about. So you guys, good job on being on this webinar today and making time to be here.
What's the effect when you don't have those fluids populated with minerals and trace elements? That we're going to talk about next.
Let's get into that.
We're going to talk about next, but this chart that Tracy just put up is the kind of the analysis of why you're 98.8% water molecules.
It kind of defines it a little more. Chemistry.
So whatever water you're getting, okay, through every other source, those are going to be adding up to your 98.8%. So that's how influential or powerful water is to how your body functions. Are you kidding?
Every molecule that you're putting in is replacing another molecule. So we want to make sure that it's high quality.
Right. So pay attention to this guy. Look him up. Look at his YouTubes and so on. They're called Habitat Crisis. He had an epiphany. He's an astrophysicist who never gave a second thought to water and minerals before. But he's a brilliant guy, and he is one of the designers of the International Space Station. Again, no water involved, and he just had an epiphany that, holy jeez, he saw this big picture of why is mankind's health degrading with chronic disease? What's going on? What's the basis of it? It's so defined. What's causing it? And he went on, next slide. He went on and he concluded.
Oh, next.
He concluded. He didn't conclude.
Top of the class right now.
He didn't conclude. He simply had people plot. And on the left side of the chart that showed is the decline of some of the key minerals in your diet of the American population from 1900 on.
Wow, that's such a steep decline.
And on the right side.
And this is because of commercial farming. This is because of commercial farming.
It's mainly because of chemicals, commercial farming. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
And just the choice of our diet. Go back to the other chart. And on the right side is the increase in chronic disease. And when he saw that, he just goes, I don't think I've ever seen scientific charts coordinate better than that.
Yeah.
Okay?
This says it all right here.
Absolutely. So in the next chart, he really plots it. We won't spend any time with the same. He's got the same curves on there, but he outlines what brought this on. Well, mechanization of farming, the ammonium nitrate fertilizer. Fungicides and herbicides. We just didn't get it. We just didn't get it. I mean, this is a crime we have created against ourselves. So instead of that periodic table that nature supplied you with, basically, and this is just an illustration, not to
this
indicate
isn't anybody's exact body, but
not anybody's exact. But you know what? That's the periodic table that you're on.
Yeah.
Okay, most Americans are living on this periodic table,
especially if they're eating a sad diet.
No wonder why it's going wrong.
Yeah. So that this leads to the point that it's really important to supplement with trace elements. It's essential. It's vital to health, right?
You can get probably a decent percentage of the primary minerals. Mm-hmm. Okay, the potassium, calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, from your diet.
Yeah.
But you ain't getting the trace elements at all. They're out of the soil. They're long gone. There's no useful bacteria in the soil anymore. You've pesticided them out.
And they're not in city water or filtered water because the reverse osmosis system.
Well, not only that, but water supplies, even natural water supplies, they don't contain much trace elements, really.
So, yeah.
The food really is the key for the trace elements. I mean, that's how nature designed it, not the water supply, because water supplies vary so much. But the crust of the earth is fairly consistent. That contains the elements. But once you deplete them and you do mechanized farming, they're not coming back.
Yeah.
So here's
so how do we supplement?
Since 2004, this is a product that was conceived and evolved in 1897. These happen to be glass ampules of a product called Canton, realized by Rene Canton, who knew that life began in the ocean and we cannot depart from the ocean for our entire lifetime. And we must consume the ocean if we don't get it in our food or if we need special help. And this product actually was first a medicine. This was in the pharmacopoeia of Europe. Okay. I mean, that's how seriously it was taken. And, then they had decent food, okay, especially in France, right? This is where all this was. So they had healthier food. But if people became sick, they needed extra of this. And this is where Quinton supplied these products.
Can I just say anecdotally that this product changed my life?
And nothing changed my life more than this.
Nothing has changed my life more than this
It changed your life, but this saved my life, remember? It saved my life in Brazil.
Well, I feel like it saved my life too, because my the conductivity of my body was so depleted. I have a machine called an AccuScope.
Yes.
Where I would test myself.
Yes.
It was dive bombing, like all down my meridian points. It was just, so that was a quantitative way to measure it. And I felt that way. I felt like I was dying, literally. And I was 24. And I was severely mineral depleted. And that's how I got so passionate about hydration, getting into understanding water and minerals. But I tried a lot of other trace element formulas, and some of them actually made me feel worse. And maybe it's because the balance wasn't right, but it wasn't until
this is the only balance. This is
the only one.
Even other seawater preparations, they're concentrated. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's not that they can't be helpful. I'm not throwing them under the bus, but they're not magical like this one is. Okay. They're never going to be a medicine. They will give you some minerals, but they concentrate it. They take sodium out. They imbalance it. Yeah. This is the perfect form from whence you came.
It's exactly the way it needs to be. That isotonic formula of what we should have been bathed in when we were in our mother's womb. So when I got this, I felt like the charge of my body, just like everything turned back on. And when I tested myself with my AccuScope, I was at like literally from being practically dead to fully alive. Yeah. So it's one of those things now. I dedicated my life to sharing this because it's changed mine. And then all of our clients and they come into the wellness center and we get them hydrated, that their life changes too.
So I made a little kind of a humorous statement before about cremation, but I just want to dramatize.
How is, can we talk a little bit about the Quinton and how it's harvested? Like what
I will, but this is right appropriate now.
Okay.
So we talked about, you're basically seawater, which is the whole periodic table of the minerals and trace elements in your body water, blah, blah, blah. But when a person is cremated and you drive off the water and the gases, and organic matter, that urn of stuff you get, the ashes, we call it, that is, in an ideal person, that would be the periodic table again from whence you came. That's it. So you're really totally composed of water and the periodic table. I mean, like, please get this.
Everything except for the gas is full.
Yeah.
That too.
Wow. So anyway, there's two forms of this. That's why people, I'm sure, may be asking, why are there two colors of ampules?
Yeah, that's a common question. Which one should I take?
Which one should you take? So isotonic is diluted hypertonic, and hypertonic is actual ocean water. Okay, the same concentration as the sea, about 33,000 milligrams per liter, or 33 grams. Okay, so it's it's a lot. There's maybe how many? There's probably six good teaspoons of minerals in each liter of that hypertonic. So isotonic is made by simply diluting the hypertonic to the same concentration that your body evolved to get out of the ocean. And this is isotonic, the magic water. And this is your blood plasma. So this clear ampule of the water, and this is a very special product that's actually sterile, and this water is not sterilized like the pharmaceutical companies do it. Never is heated, okay? Because when you heat stuff, you change it, you denature it. Right. So this is what the discovery of René Quintón was: no heat. Okay, it doesn't work if it's heated. Yeah. Okay.
Cold processed.
So it is. It's cold processed, and it's only processed in glass piping and so on.
Even the tubing is all glass.
Yes.
I love that. Every detail is.
Every detail. That is a fantastic company. So that isotonic has been used since the 20s as an IV solution for the reserve blood plasma of the wars. And it's actually still used today, and I think it's going to become a revived product to the chagrin of the pharmaceutical companies.
Because the body can use this to make its own red blood cells. Once you have this, then it can create its own.
It's very stimulating to red blood cell production. So anyway, it's a miracle product for sure.
Magic water.
That saved my life and saved our lives.
Saved our lives, and so many other of our patients.
Yes, we know. So this is just reminding that by supplementing with this kind of seawater, you can change that very negative chronic disease kind of fate of having insufficient minerals and trace elements. Just by adding seawater to your diet, you can live the way you were intended. And this is,
I love this.
This is the kind of place that this seawater is extracted from. It is taken from a plankton-rich area. Yeah. They look for these kinds of things. This is a plankton bloom with a vortex.
That's beautiful.
A vortex, and the vortex is quite powerful, and it causes an upwelling of the undissolved minerals from the bottom of the ocean, which is loaded, and it brings it up and solubilizes them. And then that plankton is very rich. The plankton's using this just like you're using it. And it's organocomplexing the minerals. It's like preparing, the plankton is preparing these minerals just like the soil bacteria is preparing the minerals for the plant. Okay?
Love it.
Okay, we're gonna jump on. Oh, let's see if we're ready to jump onto the water purification.
How do we have safe drinking water? We have to start with the chemistry of the water, which lets you shine in that area.
I kind of shine. So let's go through this a little bit. For those of you who are, this is, I call this my, what was the guy who did the Saturday Night Live guy who did the little Groundhog Day? Bill Murray.
Okay.
Did you ever see it?
I saw Groundhog Day, yes.
Okay, so Groundhog Day, he lives this day continually and finally figures out it's the same day, and it's the funniest thing. But this presentation of water purification is my Groundhog Day, because people never seem to learn it, okay? And I have to keep
You have to say it over and over.
Okay, and you have no idea how many times I say, listen, you cannot just write me, email me, or call me and say, I live in a house. What water purification system
I get that question every day, the same question.
It's like walking into a doctor and say, hey, What prescription do I need?
Right.
It's just like that.
Because our water's all
so modern water supplies, especially municipal ones, get polluted.
What's in your
and we
water
do a
system?
great job of cleaning them up, but it's not good enough for you people who are willing to take time off to listen to this. Who are interested in your health enough to listen to this today, okay, and participate. So look, this is just saying, hey, there's tons of reasons your water gets polluted, and even if it came from a pristine lake somewhere in Montana, if it goes through a municipal plant, by obligation and law, they have to add chemicals to treat it, to kill the bacteria, and those aren't good either. So you're stuck with this. You've got to fix your water. Next. Right. So we won't go through them, but there's hundreds of contaminants that are in water. Most of the contaminants that have been detected are not regulated. And you go, what? They're not regulated because to regulate them means you have to remove them, and to remove them costs so much you wouldn't be able to afford the water. So Congress just leaves it alone. It's one of the realities of economies.
Sad reality.
So just go back for a second, but I do want to point out some things there. You see, you see chlorine, chloramines, and chlorine dioxide. Those are the things that kill bacteria in the water. So almost all water has that. The TTHMs are one I always bring up to families, because TTHMs do cause, they are considered carcinogens, and they also cause miscarriage. Okay? And they're insidious, and you get them not only from drinking the water, you get them showering and bathing. By inhalation, by skin contact. This is one to be dealing with, and almost nobody even knows about it. And it's a fairly recent, meaning the last 30 years, discovery. And it's not easy to remove from water. It requires special filtration, etc., etc. And this used to have a 100 microgram per liter limit in the water, okay? 100 microgram per liter. And then all the countries got together and go, that's just too high, okay? We're gonna make it to 80. And then they made a new category, the maximum contaminant level coal. It's like, we want to tell you what we can afford to remove for you, but we want to tell you alert you to how bad a contaminant is by telling you what we think it should be ideally. And the maximum contaminant level goal for TTHMs is 0. There is no level that is considered safe.
Yeah.
Okay? So you have a system that's doing, let's say, a decent job in removing TTHMs.
Yeah.
Okay, decent.
Carbon.
But remember, because it's backwashing, that's the thing that compromises.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So, and we all know fluoride. Nobody wants fluoride in water. So point of use, there's two things: drinking water and water for showering and bathing. You have to look at these totally different. For drinking water, you don't even want to think about making drinking water quality from your whole house. That's for millionaires and billionaires who can be that sophisticated. But basically, all of us, you're going to have a system for drinking water and a system for bathing and showering that does all the water in your house. And that drinking water is called POU, point of use, and the whole house for bathing and showering is called point of entry, POE.
Okay.
And so, look at my title. This is my plea that I make every Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Please do this first. Find out what's in your water. And don't you do it. You can send a report to us or tell us what city you live in, because every city of 25 people or more has to have this report that's sanctioned by the EPA. Some reports are pretty crappy. I don't know how they get away with it. But if you're on a well, of course, you don't have any analysis. You have to get it done. And I even, the place to get a well analysis done is National Testing Laboratories, which is also called watercheck.com. Okay?
That's valuable information.
Good. So here's a report from San Diego. Okay? And the point
where
is,
we currently are right now.
It's only one of the pages. It's only one of the pages, all these numbers. And the sad thing is no one will be able to read that report. It's just too complicated for even a very educated person who's not in this field. He would look at this and be like, what is this? Okay.
Yeah.
So it does require interpretation. And I don't know if it's conspiracy or not, but they try to hide this and make it difficult instead of telling you, hey, here's what's wrong.
Right.
They just, here's the numbers. And then they have so many little symbols and things. Nobody would even look at it for more than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So these are the main water contaminant reduction technologies: distillation, reverse osmosis, and activated carbon. Don't even think of anything else. It's going to be a combination of these things, okay? Just those top 3 things. This compares them. Certainly the top methods of making drinking water. You wouldn't do this for your whole house, but for drinking water, we're talking about now, to remove almost anything and everything. Distillation plus activated carbon and reverse osmosis plus activated carbon are the 2 technology combinations that can remove virtually every category. Yes. So that's it. And look at what we have in the water now. I mean, you can find pharmaceuticals in the water, cosmetics in the water.
But it says reverse osmosis is only partially effective in getting bacteria and viruses out. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yep. You can't, if does it remove bacteria and virus from the water? Yes. What that is,
does it remove coronavirus? Just kidding.
Well, it's not a waterborne disease. But,
it's a joke.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. But the reason it isn't is that in the industry of reverse osmosis, they do not allow you to use reverse osmosis process as a disinfection method. And this is the way they express it. You're not allowed to sell this to somebody to remove virus because they won't be able to monitor it and so on. But because distillation is simply boiling water, it's so basic that if you boil the water, you are going to kill virus and bacteria. Right. So that's how it is.
Okay. All right. Moving to the next.
So this just discusses the 2. We won't get into the details. We know that I have a favorite. Distillers are great as long as they're with activated carbon. They're not user-friendly. Consumers don't seem to like them. They use a lot of electricity. The electricity is expensive to distill it. You have to cool the water. So there's lots of unfriendly things about a distiller, but it's very effective. RO is simply much more effective. But
the holding tank.
I'm showing you a picture. This is one of the most painful things.
The evil twin.
This is one of the most painful things for me to show you.
Most
because
people don't even know.
I was instrumental in the 70s of even creating such systems. Okay. Yeah. And the systems were different then because membranes only made 5 gallons a day in the early days. And you always you ran out of it, couldn't keep up with you. So you kept draining the tank. But now these same membranes, it looks exactly the same size, make 50 to 70 gallons a day, 10 times more.
Yeah.
So you never drain the tank.
It just keeps sitting in that
tank.
And
it keeps sitting in that tank. And
wet, moist, dark.
And now we have more chronic disease. Yes. We have more sick children. We have autism.
Microbial nightmare.
They cannot handle the microbes in that tank. And therefore, I tell people you have to go tankless. Or if you have a child who's truly chronically ill, immunocompromised, or with autism with a very damaged gut and microbiome, you absolutely have to sterilize this water if you want to use this system.
That's why we like the
and
aqua
it's sad
true.
Because
can we take a picture? We've got the aqua true over there on the counter.
Yeah, you're going to see it in a second.
It's tankless. Yeah. It's in my kitchen.
So I think this is my favorite drinking water system for virtually everybody. It is a 4-stage RO system. It's fairly inexpensive. The point is the tank does not become contaminated, and you can clean the tank every 10 minutes if you want, but you don't have to. And that's that front carafe. The water goes in there and you use it and you exchange it. And if you want to just rinse it out, that's fine. But this doesn't present that risk that typical undersink permanently installed RO systems.
And if you want to get a discount, we have a discount code today. for 10% off the AquaTrue as well as the isotonic minerals. If you just type in my name, Tracy Dews.
I dig it.
TracyDuhs. You can get 10% off.
I don't even know those things.
Yeah, you don't even know that. Yeah.
I don't have to pay attention to money. I hate that.
So do I.
Okay, you guys all have to know this. If you're happy with the fact that your shower filter, if you own one, removes the chlorine because it's strong, great, use it. But as far as all the other contaminants like disinfection byproducts, trihalomethanes, VOCs, even chloramines that are a disinfectant, forget it. It doesn't do it. None of them can do it. And they all, most of them lie on the social media.
And the reason why is because it's going through too fast.
It's going through too fast. The active ingredients in that filter cannot remove it at the speed it goes through. Yeah. Or it might remove it for a day, okay, because it's fresh and brand new. Yeah. After that, it's a waste. And what upsets me is they all lie. Some people even say their shower filters remove fluoride, and you can't remove that except for very, very special methods. So how do people get clean water? What kind of home systems? You have to have a system. We're going to come to that system. Okay. Yeah. You have to do the whole house, and it's more expensive, and many people live in apartments and condos. It's a tough problem. Move out of the apartment, move out of the condo, move into the woods. Yeah, and I say here, you have to be very careful when choosing. It's easy to choose a point of use system for drinking water, and we showed you one, but choosing a carbon filtration system with other components that's appropriate for your whole house to remove those contaminants is a chore. I'm going to give you some tips. We don't sell such a thing because the installation can be so complex, and to handle something nationwide, it's never been achieved before. So I just want you to know this is for information purposes, and I wish I could do more. Next. Okay, this is just giving my sanction. Most bottled water is great. It's expensive. It may not be environmentally correct, but most bottled water in the United States are members of the International Bottled Water Association. It's a very good organization. Well, let's be clear though. It's good. The chemistry of it's good. There's a lot of other aspects. No, let's not say the chemistry is good. I'd like to say it's safe. It's safe. Okay. It's not going to contain contaminants, but its chemistry is not good. Okay, and it's not going to be good. Even the AquaTrue coming out of that chemistry is not ideal. That's why we're going to add ketone. Do you understand? So the chemistry, so when I say that, let me clarify. It's clear of contamination, and that part of the chemistry is important, but we need to add the minerals in order to get a structure. Minerals and trace elements. But when you're saying this, you're saying, because I want people to realize that, yes, this is not, this filtered water is free of contaminants, but there's so much more. There's so much more to know. But bottled water does a great job of removing contaminants. But not hydrating. Nah. No, I mean, I'm sure there are some bottled waters. I mean, there are a couple of bottled waters that use seawater. Okay? Like Kona from Hawaii. It is diluted seawater. So that would be great. I'm talking about the filtered water that you get. Like if you went to Costco and you ordered, that does not do a good job of hydrating. 98% of the bottled waters use RO and so on. They remove it and they put a little sprinkly of something. Just so everyone's clear, I just want people to understand that, because it feels like there's so many people that don't even understand that basic level. Yes. So I want to bring that up. That a lot of people buy their water from Costco. They're drinking these bottled waters from Costco. That's all they drink, and they're so severely dehydrated because it doesn't have a structure. It doesn't have the minerals in it, the trace elements. Hypertonic. Oh yeah, he's gonna take hypertonic. This is what we suggest. I don't care if you're buying the best bottled water in town. Let's say Mountain Valley Fans. What's another great one? Castle Rock. Okay, all these great bottled water. Yeah. You know what I would do? What I recommend? Hey, would you pour? I don't care how much or little you put in, but just getting all the trace elements that are known in it is priceless.
Yes.
And you just put this in. You can put one of these.
This is the game changer.
That's the game.
This is the game changer right here. Because if you took that chemically clean water from Costco and you put one of these in now,
bingo. Talking. It's another game.
It's another game. And most people do not.
I mean, you have no idea what that changes health. I mean, it's like magic. Like somebody takes the veil off.
I want to ask a question because this is the question I get a lot. These are not cheap to buy. And in my opinion, I think instead of buying a Starbucks every day or some coffee, this will change your life.
So it's
magic water.
Well,
but
that is.
What about people that can't barely even afford to buy food?
Yeah,
and can they put a little sprinkle of sea salt, Celtic sea salt in their water?
Yes, they can. It's not at this level. Mm-hmm. It may not be have therapeutic mm-hmm. effects, but it has maintenance effect.
Yes.
I do not favor Himalayan salt. Right. Its analysis is just all over the place.
Yeah, the iron oxide.
It has iron oxide in it. I do not favor it. Just stick with Celtic sea salt if you have to do that.
But for people that can barely put food on the table.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, you will change. It's a life changer.
So they can take the chemically clean water, chemistry of the water is clean. Get their Costco water, whatever it is. Buy an AquaTrue. What is it? $3.9? I don't know how much it is.
Right.
It's not that expensive. Buy one of those, and then you can add Celtic sea salt if you can't afford
exactly.
this.
And most people, when they use it that way, they make a Soleil.
Yes.
Okay, so you put in a jar, you know, what are the jars called? They cut
any glass jar.
Any kind of jar. A glass jar. You fill it. You put a quarter of it. Fill it with Celtic sea salt.
Yeah.
You put water in it and cover it, and you won't dissolve all of it. It'll reach saturation.
Well, I like to put mine in the sun and activate it.
Oh yeah, good. I love putting light and water together. I agree with
That's amazing.
But now you have the Soleil, and you can just get an eyedropper or a spoon or something and just put the liquid Soleil. It's good.
In the water.
It's good.
So that's another option if you can't buy the Quinton.
And this is like $1.25.
It's not
retail.
Exactly. But I think if you can just even try one box of this and see how you feel with it, you won't ever want to not have
it. I know.
Because I felt like I didn't know what it felt like to be alive, and literally my cells vibrating and be fully vibrant and alive until I had this. I feel more alive now than I did when I was a child.
And it's certainly made a lot of children alive.
Yeah.
This is, I will just take a step out of what our mission is here. And if you're planning on having a baby, this will be the greatest thing that Tracy and I could ever tell you to include in your pregnancy, in your prenatal nutrition. This is it. There will be nothing you can get. Methylfolate, vitamins and minerals, nothing will compare to this.
Mm-hmm. Nothing.
So here's some other forms of water we touched on before. Alkaline. We actually said this statement that promoters did not recognize the difference between alkaline and alkalinity, and the pH of water is irrelevant in human physiology. And part of the reason is it's instantly acidified, or its pH, because it's not strongly buffered. As soon as it goes through your esophagus and stomach and other body fluids, just completely obliterate the pH. So you're not getting anything, but it is an incredible, a myth that makes money. Okay. MMM, myth that makes money. And, I still go to Whole Foods and I see people go and they're buying the alkaline water. And I'm just going, it's amazing.
Your heart breaks.
It's heartbreaking. They're paying extra whatever amount for this water.
So everyone, there's a difference between alkaline and alkalinity.
Yes.
All right.
And difference between alkaline and alkalizing. And you have to get into that. There's tons of books written on this of people who finally realize this. Now, to be even more complete about this, in the recent maybe 3 or so years, you see a departure from people who make alkaline ionizers. You see a shift away from the focus of the water being alkaline because this is spreading, okay? This is a misconception. And you are seeing them focus on a whole nother very popular health benefit of hydrogen, okay? And they never marketed it this way before. But when people like me became involved in the benefits of molecular hydrogen and my co-development of the hydrogen tablet in 2010, they realized, hey, the electrolysis process also makes hydrogen. So when you have a properly operating clean alkaline ionizer, it's putting a small amount of hydrogen in the water.
But that's a good point that you brought up. It's properly hydrating and clean, because a lot of people feel the effects of these ionizers because of the hydrogen that it's producing, and they say, "Oh my gosh, it changed my life," and then it never fails. I always hear the people like it degrades over time, and then they'll say a couple years later, "Oh, it's not working as well. I don't know what happened," but it's because there's calcification that's happening.
That and other things, any contaminants that attach to the electrolysis mechanism impair its ability to make hydrogen, and so that's it. It declines over time, and people don't realize it. So, and it doesn't make alkaline ionizers are not the way to get hydrogen. Okay.
Yeah, you just use
and people that just promote it so much. You know, Enagic or Kangen and almost all of them are on the bandwagon of hydrogen, and they want you to think it's a hydrogen machine, and it isn't. So there are some brutal, if you go to...
well, that's why with the Kangen and the Enagic, that's why they say you have to drink it right away in order to get the effects. It's not because of the alkaline structure of it, it's because of the hydrogen gas is dispersing, and so you're not going to feel the
because it's not strong. Typically, if we use the number of parts per million for hydrogen, I would say most, even when they're new, most ionizers produce between maybe 0.3 ppm and saturation 1.6 ppm.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
So that's that. But now we did mention something we're going to come back to just in that previous slide, which is structured water.
Oh, right.
Structured water is taking...
We can't miss this.
Structured water is taking over the lure.
Yeah.
Okay?
This is the new sexy term in science.
Structured water is taking over the lure.
Okay.
Of the consumer.
Yeah.
And, you know, people are romanced by structured water.
Yes.
The word structured.
Yes. Yeah.
And part of it has to do with that the same confusion that exists in alkaline versus alkalizing, okay?
Yeah.
pH versus alkalinity. That same lure goes on in structured, because there are structures that are very valid. And we talk about it in physiology, like Gerald Pollack's easy water, fourth phase water. This is structured water inside your cell.
Yeah.
And then people start to go, hey, I'm going to use that somehow. Everybody knows Gerald Pollack's work and so on. And it's very
not everyone knows his work.
Well,
so
okay,
new.
Okay. Everybody in
the last 10 years, but yeah.
But even people at our level still get sucked into all these structured waters.
And structure is important, but let's talk about why there's so much myth behind it.
The most fundamental form of structuring is just created by minerals in the water.
You have to have
the ions interacting creates a structure, and then their structuring, Gerald Pollack's work, is referring to water structure, biological water that's in the cells. That's where the structure is. Gerald Pollack is not telling you to drink structured water.
That has to do with the polarity, the charge.
Pardon?
The charge.
Oh, it involves charge layering. It's very complex. The hydrophilic surfaces, the protein folding. I mean, there's many mechanisms that go on inside the cell that are dependent upon this layered structuring that is described by
and what we'll talk about later, but these electromagnetic frequencies are affecting that structure in such a dynamic way. The cell is losing its polarity. The cytoplasm is losing its polarity, and this is killing us. This is causing so much disease, cancer, and autoimmune diseases, and it's something that's not talked about enough. Guys,
yes. I mean, we are, if time permitting, we are going to bring this up, but we can't resist bringing up something so important. When people were examining the negative health effects of EMF or EMR, electromagnetic radiation, electromagnetic field, etc., everything, your microwave, your cell phone, your Wi-Fi, all of this stuff that's around us that we're using right now, all of this stuff, people go, hey, the original standard was, if you're exposed to this, how much does it increase the temperature of your tissues? Right. Okay, we're going to measure it in the brain and all that. They did all this infrared work.
Like a microwave, and it wasn't if it doesn't heat you up, it's not hurting you.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't heat you up, it doesn't hurt you. And they applied this same thing. Now, they knew because the military had done studies with radar and realized it wasn't just heating up. It was destroying cellular integrity. Yeah. They didn't know about structured water then, but they knew it was really messing people up.
Yes.
Including the soldiers who were working near the radar.
Yes.
So then along comes people like Ling and Pollock and Maywan Ho and go, oh my God, the water is structured, there's quantum effects that are subtle in the water, et cetera, et cetera. And these EMFs and EMRs, these are obliterating these important effects from the structuring. You're obliterating it. Mm-hmm. You're just your cellular water is getting scrambled by your cell phone. Mm-hmm. I tell people you must consider that your cell phone is radioactive. Mm-hmm. And if you knew it was radioactive, you don't want it in your hand more than minutes a day.
Here's a simple little tip that could change your life. When you're at home on your Wi-Fi, turn off cellular and turn on just the Wi-Fi portion. You can still get phone calls, texts, and everything that you need. Do not have the cellular on when you do not need it.
Meaning put it on airplane mode.
Basically put it on airplane mode. And that's going to help.
Help, but not eliminate.
Not eliminate, but
I hate to say it, and don't hang me with it. We have to eliminate cell phones and Wi-Fi. Yeah. We have to go to a new technology. I believe it's not on the horizon, but I believe it's going to happen. I believe it's been inhibited from happening. Any
geniuses out there, start looking into scalar and how we can use that
scalar
for communication, because that's healing frequency.
Okay, so structured water is, I mean, I have some problems with, shall we say, misinformation in the water field, and there's several that I would like to point out. We did one before. We mentioned water. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. WATT hyphen AHH. Mm-hmm. Remember that water?
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're very nice people. I think they mean well. Do I think they know what they're talking about? No, I don't. And, they had written something against deuterium depleted water. And what they wrote against deuterium depleted water was more humorous than it was serious.
Oh, yeah, I got that.
And it was disturbing to me because I'm very involved in deuterium depleted water and its remarkable health benefits. And
I've been on just deuterium depleted water for the last 3 months. I have so much energy; it's unreal.
Yes, it's a life changer. So I'm trying to find here it is. So here was I might as well show you this while we're at it. Here's probably a very momentary illustration of what shapes water can take, and in a picosecond later, it's going to be completely different. That's why. And people constantly show these, here's how the structure is, and we're going to have 6 of these in a ring. Forget it. It doesn't work like that. So when Wata, and I'm not picking on Wata, like I said, I think they're fine people. But when they went out, on their way, they wrote,
she wrote an article, and this is I think she's part of the family, very nice person, and you can see this, and it says that deuterium is not hydrogen's evil twin. Now, why would she even bring this up? It's because deuterium is getting to be very well known, and people think it's the most serious biohack you can do in your life. And nobody wants to be trumped by a new water, because they have water that goes through all kinds of processes and so on. So she goes, deuterium is not hydrogen's evil twin. And her reason her reason says she says, we could not find, and this is when I went crazy, we could not find any process except for X-ray diffraction performed in the laboratory to completely remove the neutron and make hydrogen in water completely free of deuterium. Well, that's just ridiculous. And you don't need to make it completely free. But regular water does have 150 parts per million of deuterium in it, roughly, okay? And that, because we're mostly water, you might guess what our level is, 150 parts per million, even though Tracy and I have a lower level right now, certainly below 110, okay? I would say we're safely below that.
Yeah.
So, but she said, so she is complaining that, you can't even make deuterium depleted water, which is completely wrong. And then I wrote a letter back to her stating, hey, maybe you shouldn't be in the water business if you don't know these basic things about water. So deuterium is going to be a big thing. It's not going to be world popular because one, of its expense. One is because of the incredible world limitation of production. There's only enough deuterium depleted water now for less than
20,000 people,
25,000, 30,000 people. That's it for the world.
Yeah.
So, I mean, everybody's not going to get it.
There's a limited supply.
Yeah. I mean, you could make more at one water plant of their water than all the deuterium. So,
but that hopefully will change eventually.
It's going to change. There's going to be a demand.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to point that out. And other companies have also gotten a little bit sensitive to deuterium. So here's the deal. There is no definition of deuterium depleted. It doesn't say, to be deuterium depleted, you have to be less than 100 parts per million. So regular water has 150 parts per million. And the consumer goes, that's deuterium depleted. They think it's like some magical number that's been achieved. But this water is, I think, Davinia, if I have it right, is 134 parts per million. Okay? I mean, it's nice to get that, but it's not going to give you the benefits.
You could just freeze water and scrape the top of the ice.
Well, I'm not sure.
It's a joke.
Yes, it takes you about 3 weeks per liter.
You're going to deplete the point I'm making is you're going to deplete the deuterium. How much?
To some extent.
How much, right? It doesn't, but I could say that.
Right. Mm-hmm. You could say that's deuterium depleted. Yeah. And so even though I think it's irresponsible for them to say we're deuterium depleted and figure out what it is on your own, instead of saying we're deuterium depleted, our stable isotope laboratory measured 134 parts per million, which is nice. I mean, this would be a good water to mix with deuterium depleted water, okay?
Yeah, I mean, this has a lot of benefits to it, this water, right?
Well, I'm not happy with those benefits. I mean, I have learned, and please, somebody out there, if you would correct me if I'm wrong, that this water is treated by microwave radiation, okay? So it's microwaved. It's like, being exposed to a microwave oven or a cell phone. And I think I would like to know the reason for that. I mean, I see that as scrambling the water, and obliterating any useful structure. So it's possible they scramble it to zero it out and somehow restructure it. I don't know.
Okay.
But I wasn't impressed, and I'm certainly offended by the claim for deuterium depleted water, because people are thinking, hey, I'm going to get these benefits, or people who have a serious disease that responds to deuterium depleted water, they think taking this is going to fix them, and it isn't going to fix them. Okay. So structured water is all over the place. Okay. I mean, if there was dog food that said structured dog food, I mean, people would be inclined to buy it. they're so romanced by this word. Okay, so just be careful in your choice. Also, there's two categories of structuring. I mean, there's probably many, but there's, I call them, there's lower order structuring and there's higher order structuring. Let me explain what that means. Lower order structuring means that you've structured the water with, let's say, minerals, or you've used some process that does put water in certain molecular configurations. All right? Hexagonal, linear, I don't care. Make it up. Tetrahedral, make up whatever you do, because that's what most structuring is all about, the configurations of the molecules, the clusters, so to speak. But when you drink this water, everybody seems to have forgotten it's going through the stomach. Okay? If you go through the stomach is a torture chamber for whatever you put in it. Yeah. Okay? It will dissolve a steak in 20 minutes. What do you think it's going to do to these delicate, changeable structures in water? Whatever they are, forget it. So I am for this cluster molecular structuring. I say forget it. If you want to benefit from that, maybe you can nebulize the water. Well,
you're looking at the chemistry and the how it affects our body in that way, but there's also so many other aspects to water, the bioenergetics.
Yeah, well, I was
subatomic level. So there's so much.
These higher order effects. You have rotational molecular effects. You have magnetic poles. And let's just put them in the category of they're quantum effects. Yes. And these are real. One of the things that I believe is a valid form of structuring is vortexing. Okay? It's the only one that I really trust. And vortexing is, I think, a very effective thing. I vortex my water. You vortex your AquaTrue water with minerals in it, with your UMH
take my AquaTrue water, put my ketone in, and
can somebody take a picture of that?
Yeah, I can show this vortexing unit over here. The gold, 24 karat gold over here. So, and then Tracy, I have a travel one too.
Tracy, I hope you can see this, but Tracy takes the water from her AquaTrue and she mineralizes this, and then she pours it into the funnel, and it goes through this it's perhaps one of the most sophisticated.
Comes from Austria, 24 karat gold plated.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the most sophisticated structuring devices there is. It's very good. It's very expensive. And there are other vortex devices, not as sophisticated, but I think they do add a measure of structuring to water that's useful, especially if there's minerals involved. My favorite one is made by Vibrant Vital Water, actually, Randy Hatton in New Mexico. So it's something to look into too.
Vibrant Vital Water, yeah.
Vibrant Vital Water.
Okay.
So these things, these higher order effects that are caused by motion, vortexing, flow, change in direction, etc., perhaps even compression and expansion, resonance, imprinting sacred geometry. These things are measured by totally different instruments like infrared spectroscopy, nuclear magnetic resonance. They can probe these effects. Yeah. So anyway, be careful when you're choosing your structured water and ask if I saw a structured water that I never saw before, I would call them, email them, whatever, and say, are you certain, and how can you prove that your structure survives passing through the stomach? That's my bottom line.
Okay.
Okay.
Alkaline water backlash. Did we already
That's
go over that?
Yeah, we kind of that just shows that there's a bunch of backlash against alkaline water over the years.
Alkalizing minerals.
Yeah, alkalizing minerals is how you alkalize the body, or that's like, to recover you from abuse. But if you use principles in the Pearl chart,
salts, yeah, these are great to add to your water.
Absolutely. And the next one is really Did you pass one up?
No.
The Pearl chart.
remember I spoke about the potential renal acid load, and this is just a little extract from that chart, and you can see that vegetables and fruits are negative and therefore alkalizing. And we're going to come to that. And then lean meats are positive, so that means they're acidifying. And you know, professional nutritionists will balance that.
This
so
one has
this one,
bicarbonate.
This one is a mixture of effective. This product that's supplied by Water and Wellness Solutions is very good. We get far more testimonials from this than I would have ever expected. And some people, and I started doing it, I really enjoy it, put it in their coffee. Because it neutralizes the coffee acids. No, it's fantastic.
Really?
Trust me, and you wouldn't expect.
I don't drink coffee, so I don't know.
Okay. So this has potassium, but just glycinate, a more sophisticated form.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, here's what that picture shows.
Mm-hmm. This stuff's great.
And
if you want to alkalize your blood,
so we just told you how to alkalize naturally, and here's some other additives, and one of my favorite, because I spent many years doing this, and this was molecular hydrogen. Now, molecular hydrogen has an incredible history, and I want to tell you about some of the things it was, I believe, explored and researched, etc., to a most sophisticated science in Japan at Nagoya University. There was a professor, doctor there, Dr. Ota, who is actually one of the authors of this book, a book on molecular hydrogen. Now, before you run and get this book and get the shock of your life, when I first bought this book and I got it, and it's very well done, but as you can see, it's a very thin book. When I bought this book, I paid $63. Oh, wow. And I was like, wow, okay, how come? Well, then I realized it's a Springer book, and a Springer is one of the big companies in scientific publications. So $63. I'm sure not a lot of people weren't even buying it because they didn't even know what molecular hydrogen was. So when I went back, someone stole my copy from a conference, okay?
Oh, that's why when I met you at the conference, you were looking for a book and you thought someone stole it. So you had that happen. When
the second book I bought, when I went on Amazon to buy it, it was $163, okay?
Oh, gosh.
And I bought it anyway, okay?
Yeah.
And I'm not happy about it. But so I don't know. You may not ever get this book, but it is in it used to be expensive because it wasn't in demand. Now it's in such demand that they doubled the price.
Oh, geez, $160 for this little tiny book.
Yes, no kidding.
Let me take a picture that I'm ordering it on Amazon today.
It's a very good read, and explains that, molecular hydrogen exists in a lot of the natural health known springs, Lourdes and Nordhoff, and all around the world. Molecular hydrogen is one of the key ingredients.
It's a very scientific book.
Yeah, it's very good. It gives a great history. It tells you what the springs are, but the point is, we discovered something that seemed very unlikely, that hydrogen itself, I mean, we're not talking about hydrogen ions or anything. We're talking H2, the gas, that the molecular hydrogen has incredible beneficial effects in the body. One, as an antioxidant, two, as a signaling molecule, three, as a regulator of the antioxidant system. And frankly, it just goes on and on. Every year, we're adding another insight into molecular hydrogen. And there are well over 1,000 studies on molecular hydrogen from universities and research.
Tyler LeBaron at the Hydrogen Institute.
And our guru, who's become the world guru, is Tyler LeBaron. You should go on his website.
I just interviewed him on my podcast.
You did? That's right.
Yeah, so everyone check out. you haven't subscribed to the Hydrate podcast, it launched today, and Tyler LeBaron, I did a fantastic interview with him. He's so knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Dropped so many gold nuggets.
Yeah, and he's studying his PhD in cellular biology, blah, blah, blah. And he has a website. It's called molecularhydrogeninstitute.com. It's independent. He doesn't talk about any products. He just talks about the technology.
Yeah.
And also he's a member of the new International Molecular Hydrogen Standards Association.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a new association that's going to actually independently evaluate products with durability. So anyway, that is, go on that website. You'll learn an incredible amount. And here is a typical product. Can we get some regular water in a clear glass?
Steve, can you put some water in this glass, please?
Sure. For those of you who haven't done this, I mean, this has become, when I helped develop this in 2010, we never thought that this would happen. I mean, there's an incredible use of this product throughout the world. And so you put the tablet in, and it's some people would tell you, oh, it's making carbon dioxide, but it's not. This is pure molecular hydrogen, and it's getting infused into the water.
H2.
And this happens to be the latest version with a very high
raspberry smell.
A very high level. In this glass, it's probably making 8 parts per million of hydrogen, which is very high. And it's new because some people weren't crazy about the flavor of raw molecular hydrogen. So this is raspberry flavored.
Interesting.
Making it nicer.
I just like it straight up.
Yeah. But this is so powerful. It is life-changing. I mean, many people have written testimonies about this. It is used all over the world, and it's a very successful, effective product. And it also, hydrogen, by the way, can be inhaled. There are machines in which hydrogen is produced by a number of processes, and you inhale the gas. This is actually used in some hospitals for various, say, trauma conditions, because hydrogen is the smallest molecule in the universe, and it goes everywhere in the body very, very rapidly. Its diffusion rate is the highest. So, and you can see how rich these micro and nano bubbles are in this. So it's almost milky, but the tablet's still making it. Now it has almost finished. It's a very energizing. Sports people use it. This is great for any kind of, I would say, inflammatory condition, lightly.
Yes, it's it modulates inflammation in the body, which is so key.
Through many pathways. I mean, it has many modes of action. We actually have some information. Can I switch this?
Yes, I was just looking at the questions that people are asking.
Okay.
Someone asked about
there's Shanhong, Dr. Shanhong Liu. I bet she's challenging me with something.
Yeah. Hold on, let me escape here. I'm not very tech savvy, guys. Let me see. We need Jonathan.
Can't you just
I don't know. It's like the.
What's the
Somebody
matter?
help me!
Hold it.
Escape. If we press escape, what's gonna happen?
I don't know. What if we just go here?
Tech crew.
Wait, where's the cursor?
That's what I mean. It's not working.
Oh my!
They can't see the viewers can't see that, but we can.
Okay. That's. Listen, we're water people. Steve, do you have any insight into this?
Into everything?
No.
We can't figure out how to.
I'm going to try this. If we have to come back.
We're tech dummies right now.
Something very.
Okay, wait. No, this is good. This is good.
Can you slide them over?
Yeah, probably. Let's see. Let's get out.
There you go. There you go. We did it.
Okay, let's look at the questions first. Is it normal to smell like gasoline? Echo H2 water maker. Can you drink it while the tablet is still making the bubbles?
Wait.
The molecular hydrogen. No, you want to wait till
no,
it's
you want to wait till
dissolved.
it's completely
Yeah.
saturated to the max.
Yeah.
And you always put it in a liquid. You can put it in iced tea if you wish, but the point is you must drink it within 5 minutes.
What about ozonated water?
Ozonated water, I have no complaint with ozonated water. It does have some serious beneficial effects. And if you're talking about drinking it, some very nice effects to stomach conditions. And that was something someone taught me, and I'm just relying on it. I don't have experience, but it's worth definitely trying it for. It's quite popular in the autism community for gut issues.
Yeah.
So you can see that this is an illustration.
Can you still see the illustration, Steve, on Facebook?
Can we go on? Can we go on?
Play slideshow.
Yeah, but I wanted to go from where it is. Play slideshow.
Maybe we don't. Okay.
Here we are. That's what we wanted. So you can see hydrogen is the smallest molecule in the universe, and so not all the other antioxidants are huge. So it has that benefit over all of them.
Yeah, it can penetrate through the aquaporin, and also it's neutral. It's not polarized, so that helps it get
right on.
Cell.
You are so smart.
Yeah, that's a big.
And this is something I won't talk about. It's a doctor's kind of a thing, and it's a little bit sensitive to all the things this is capable of that are, let's say, therapeutic. So just take a snapshot of it, but it has a benefit to almost every compartment and organ in the body.
And a lot of people take antioxidants like glutathione and things like that, and those are amazing, but we just don't know, depending on what's happening with the person's body and their biochemistry, it might be harder to penetrate the cell wall because of everything that's going on.
Precisely.
That's why we love hydrogen, because it's so tiny, it's able to penetrate.
What's the other reason? The other reason is that first of all, nothing does better with the worst free radical, which is the hydroxyl radical. I mean, hydrogen is made in heaven for combating the hydroxyl radical.
Yeah.
But what other antioxidants do is that they're not very selective.
Right.
So they will deplete a lot of free radicals, and we now know that there are free radicals called reactive oxygen species, not all of them, but free radicals called reactive oxygen species that have a useful function and must be maintained.
Everything within balance
in the body.
Right?
So it's all about balance. And so other antioxidants, like vitamin C, maybe vitamin E, will just indiscriminately just knock out free radicals.
Yeah.
But hydrogen is selective. It only goes for the hydroxyl and peroxynitride radical.
Yes. There's so many amazing things about hydrogen. And one thing that I like about it as well is if your body has enough hydrogen already, if you take extra, it's not going to do anything to hurt you.
Exactly. Yes. It's
so benign.
It's so benign.
It can do nothing but really help.
So in the early days, they actually used, if you see this picture, I've just instructed you, historically, the first thing that ever was on the market was a stick of magnesia. Okay? I mean, just the metal magnesium, and magnesium reacts with water to make hydrogen. And so I think it was called the Hayashi stick at one point, one of the investigators of hydrogen benefits. And you would have to put this in water for a whole day, and you'd have to clean it and so on. And then in 2010, we created a simple tablet that really, as you saw, elegantly makes a saturated or supersaturated solution of molecular hydrogen in water. And we called it Active H2. Now it's grown to Active H2 Ultra. And the one that you just saw, which had the raspberry, natural raspberry flavor, is Active H2 Ultra Plus. So I happen to have seen a question from Dr. Liu, a very talented practitioner. And I think she was asking me how many vials per day of the ketone. So that's a great question. And it is a complex answer. And there are guidelines and guidebooks to determining this. But let's just say that your first interest was just to use this product for minerals and trace elements. Just 1 ampule per day would be sufficient, unless you were a serious professional performer or athlete, and then you can do things like professional, like you're in the World Cup soccer match, so they will actually take 2 of these before a match, and they will, even for recovery, because these guys are just going at it for hours, they will take 2 for recovery after a match. Okay, so that's the range in which it can be used. And then the isotonic is a more I don't know, sophisticated, perhaps a more medical kind of product that has just a wide range of functions, and it's something a doctor has to learn how to properly apply it for those things. But it like hydrogen, affects virtually every organ in the body, every tissue.
And it's self-signaling as well. So when it just touches your tongue, your body recognizes it. It doesn't even need to be digested at that point. It goes into the epithelial tissue. I like to swish it around for about a minute or as long as I can, as soon as I wake up, to signal to every cell that I have exactly what I need for life, for biogenesis, to be able to create new life within my own cells and my own body, and to help with.
It's your beginning, man.
It's the beginning.
So and some biological dentists actually use the hypertonic after they cause some kind of trauma in the mouth, or if a person has gum disease, etc. It is an excellent rinse for the mouth, and then you swallow it.
Yeah, so good. Yeah.
So good. I mean, it treats the inflamed.
Can help with the gums.
Oh, incredible! Some people put it in their water pack and use the sugar.
Also with animals, my dog, I could not get him to drink very much water. He just didn't like water for some reason, and I started to add the hypertonic solution to the water, and now he loves to drink the water.
Animals
animals know. It's so amazing. That to me was eye-opening. And kids know too. My kids, the most exciting thing is I have a little bowl of the minerals here in my kitchen. First thing they do when they walk down in the morning is pop open the isotonic. It's the very first thing. I don't have to tell them to do it. I don't have to ask them to do it. I actually been telling them to have less of them because it's getting expensive because they keep popping. They just love it.
I remember that. I remember our office administrator of many years, Karen Breyer, who lives in Florida now. Hi, Karen, if you're listening. But you've already heard all this before. I believe it was she who first told me, I'm going to guess over 10 years ago. She goes, and we were just learning ketone too after I brought it to the United States. She goes, Robert, I got to show you this. And I go, what? She goes, listen, one day when I first got like my own ketone, I snapped it, and the cat was just curious. Our cat was curious. She loves cats. Cat was curious, and I just wondered, well, I wonder if this cat would even like the isotonic. Okay, so she put it up to the cat's mouth and it's like sucked the ketone right out of the ampule. Okay, and she goes, that's so unusual. And then every morning after that, when she was taking her own, she just snapped it, and when that cat heard that snap, that cat just leaped downstairs.
Animals know.
It's ketone.
They know. So we're at 2 hours now. I think
and we only have a little thing more.
We only so
the big drama.
Okay, let's.
Okay, we mentioned deuterium depleted water before. It is something many of you won't partake in.
Extra neutron in the deuterium
but
water.
It is perhaps one of the most important things to know.
Yeah.
And this is it was probably one of the most shocking things I've learned in all of nutritional science in my life.
This is one of the biggest things you've ever
still
taught
shocks me. Because the Russians discovered all this. They realized that there was something unique about water and the deuterium in it. And they first started to discover that people in a certain remote area in Siberia, they couldn't figure out why there were 40 times more centenarians among these people.
40 times more.
40 times. No, not 4 times, but 40 times. They couldn't understand why they had so many, and they spent years trying to figure this out. To make a long story short, the only thing that was different than other people was that they had a unique water coming from a melting glacier that had about 30% less deuterium. And they go, this can't be. Like, we don't even know what deuterium is all about ourselves. Okay? So there's things that you should know. Man, I told you there's 6 drops of deuterium in every liter of natural water.
So it seems like, oh, it's not that much.
It's nothing,
no big deal.
Okay?
Yeah.
But all these people did was they had four drops, right? That's all. But they got it from birth till death.
Okay.
Okay. So when they investigated this further, it was incredulous that this was even the factor. But they also learned that these people had incredibly long lifespans, typically in the range of 140 to 165 years of age. Okay.
That's a huge difference.
No, that's a crazy difference.
Yeah.
And these people just didn't even know. That's how they live.
Yeah, that's a good question. How is the quality of life?
Well, women were having commonly among this group in Siberia, and we have a booklet you're all welcome to get on our website to read the whole story of it. But women commonly had babies in their 60s. Okay, so that should tell you how their health was. Okay.
Whoa.
Okay.
How is their sex life? That's what I want to know. I mean, like, they're in their 60s, they're having babies?
Yes.
You start taking more deuterium. I got another round to go.
Exactly.
Children.
Maybe 2. So anyway, but it is a fact of life. But it was, to cut to the chase, it was determined that this 6 drops of deuterium water in a liter of water is a powerful biological toxin, as you can read on their screen, which damages mitochondria, which generate all the energy that allows us to live and move and run and walk and have babies.
I've personally noticed that since I've been on deuterium depleted water exclusively, my body heals faster.
Oh my God.
My recovery time is like half the time. I have so much more energy. If I stayed up late one night, in the past before deuterium depleted water, I was wrecked for the rest of the day. Now I can stay up late and still wake up at the same time. Like, say I go to bed at 2 a.m. and wake up at 6 a.m. I still feel like I can just recover and spring into my day. Whereas before I couldn't do that. I would be just wrecked. And
I'm living right now at this seminar. I didn't know. I was worried at the beginning, but I'm living on 6 hours of sleep in 2.5 days. Okay. And I'm doing this seminar. And I will tell you, I just feel great.
You look amazing.
And I just, I don't know if it's being next to a beautiful woman, but that also motivates me.
It's the vibration in my house. Everything's like just set here. The boss do.
So
energy.
Anyway, this is something, whoops. There's where we were. So this changes our whole concept of water. It actually, we're not going to go into it. It's just a little too over the top, but it actually changes the whole concept of hydration.
Planting a seed, something to think about.
This is the biggest alteration in the concept of hydration, because if you are going to hydrate successfully with regular water, you're actually adding this toxin in a greater amount.
Yeah.
Okay.
The more
that's
water
why
you're
it
drinking,
changes.
the more deuterium.
That's why it changes it. And there is a solution. Now, the deuterium, which is water whose hydrogen contains a proton and a neutron, making it twice as heavy as a regular hydrogen. This heavy particle, or 2 particles, this very heavy, twice as heavy, when it gets into the mitochondria, something called a nanomotor, in which is going to be making your ATP. This particle is too heavy for the nanomotor, and it damages it, and it destroys the mitochondria. You just lost another mitochondria that's making your energy. And the mitochondria also in the process, this is how nature tried to fix it, but it didn't fix it completely. Maybe it will in another 1,000,000 years. But our mitochondria make deuterium depleted water in the making of ATP.
But this is like something going wrong. This is why the Krebs cycle was created, right?
In nature.
In nature.
Nature said, we got to get rid of these deuterons.
Yeah.
And one of the things that helps shuttle deuterons out of the we say out of the mitochondria, okay, is what you people know as the Krebs cycle, as the citric acid cycle, etc. So this is something that helps reduce, but not nearly enough.
Yeah.
To protect the mitochondria.
But the body knew what it needed to do. It needed to shuttle it out of the system, and so the evolution of the Krebs cycle.
So if you read, deuterium continuously and systematically damages up to 10,000 mitochondrial ATP mechanisms per second. Okay? You can't afford this. This is why you really grow old, because you just lose mitochondria from birth to death.
Yeah.
And the people in that area, they aren't losing the area of Siberia. They're not losing the mitochondria. So get that booklet. You will all find it fascinating.
And we can download that from your Water and Wellness website.
Correct.
Okay.
So we're just reminding you here, yes, those 6 little drops.
6 little drops change the life.
Change your life and limit your age and make you grow older and make you have chronic disease easier.
Robert's really 150.
So we are compromised. Our lives are compromised by the ubiquitous presence of deuterium in all water. Okay, and
That's scary. Ubiquitous presence of deuterium.
Yeah,
it's so scary, right? It's like you can't get away from it unless.
And energy is everything. Energy is the currency of everything you do, and it's really why we have a different. We see a 9-year-old and a 90-year-old. It's really about your mitochondrial ATP production.
Yeah.
So here's what it is. I think it's good to hear this once. Deuterium is present on all water on Earth, all seawater, yes, even our seawater, but you don't take a lot of it compared to the water that you drink. All tap water, well water, spring water, artesian water, the best bottled water, all 150. Distilled RO, bottled, purified, deionized, 150. All prepared beverages, energy drinks, tea, coffee, 150. Fresh bottled juices, vegetable juices, nut milks, 145. Some plants have actually do some deuterium depletion. So it's going to be whatever, 140 to 155. All coffee, tea, and milk. Himalayan glacial melt water. Okay, now here's
I'm moving to the Antarctic glacier.
So 133 ppm.
I know.
So, but let me do a little vindication. It's going to be very interesting. Remember, I thought Divinia didn't have the right to disclose that they're deuterium depleted without saying what it is.
Yeah.
Say what it is. And we measured this at 134. Okay. And here's a glacier that's 133. It's basically the same.
Yeah.
So where Divinia would really prove its worth is that if you gave a child this water from birth till death.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're talking about a great improvement. Okay, but it's not going to perform what we've learned, that you and I have learned about deuterium depleted, because our water is 10 parts per million. Okay? Now we don't drink it, but you really have to consume water. If you're older, you have a health problem and so on, you have to get down closer to 100 or even lower. Okay, and you just can't do it with water from the Himalayas. But if you take it from birth till death, and every ounce of water you've ever had in your life is less than, say, 130 parts per million or thereabouts, you're going to have incredible benefits. Okay? It's very interesting.
What if you start later in life like I did?
No, you have to just use lower deuterium depleted water. Mm-hmm. That's all. You have to more profoundly get it out of your body.
Since I've been on strict deuterium depleted water, I have to drink less water.
Everyone says that. Everyone says that, and I showed you yesterday. I'm amazed because I looked at this scab I had taken off my arm, which is like, I literally can't even see it. And when I pulled the scab off, that some people do wrongly, like me.
Oh, Robert.
I pulled it off, and it left the characteristic like hole,
right.
You can see the kind of the rich blood supply in there. And that was 2 days ago. I can't see it.
It's almost gone.
I've never experienced this level of healing before.
Yeah.
Okay.
And can you tell everyone how old you're going to be? When's your birthday?
In 10 days?
Yeah.
75?
Wow. Does he look like that? I mean, wow. And for your body to heal that fast.
I know.
That's incredible.
Exactly.
That is incredible.
So you'll be, in case any of you have any context, the lowest water naturally in the world is in Antarctica at 89 parts per million.
I'm moving there.
And I don't know, there's something fishy about all of that and why you can't go to Antarctica at any costs, but I'm going to just leave it at that.
We're moving there.
So here's what this is really revealing, particularly to those of you who are practitioners and understand blood chemistry, but you might thought, you're probably thinking, geez, only 6 drops in a liter, really? Is it really? But here's what the level is in your bloodstream. Look at this compared to calcium, magnesium, potassium, and glucose. Deuterium is a lot more than all of those blood constituents. That blew my mind when I saw it. So it's very concentrated and more concentrated in the body than other things. Yes, it's a very good slide. So here's the thing that won't interest most of you. This is an illustration of that nanomotor.
Ooh, I've never seen this before. That's
inserted into the inner membrane of the mitochondria. And this little thing here that looks like, I'm not sure what it looks like, but
that's good.
This thing is a rotor, very much like the rotor in your sports car turbo.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's a rotor. It spins fast. This spins 9,000 RPM in your body. Oof. And there's about 350,000 of these in every mitochondria.
Wow.
I mean, it's like a fantasy on top of a fantasy. And this, as this rotates, these little blue things are supposed to be protons from the hydrogen, right? They're protons. And it gets sucked in, and the protons get processed into the electron transport chain, and this thing, and it makes ATP.
Yeah.
But if a neutron is accompanying each of these protons, or any one of them, that neutron cannot make it through this.
And it like busts.
It's like throwing a stone in your turbo.
Bust the nanomotors.
Yes.
And then you're not making as much ATP.
Exactly.
Okay.
So there you go. So this now has been researched for 6 decades, mostly by the Russians. There are literally thousands of studies on this. There's more to it. It is in short supply. It is expensive. You should learn about it and especially think about it from a therapeutic standpoint because it's profound. And it has other damaging things, as you might have guessed. It damages DNA and does a host of other bad things because water is what is the water cage is surrounding your DNA.
Yeah.
So you've got deuterium in there and it's messing with your DNA.
98.9% water molecules you're comprised of.
I don't know what's happening. Oh. So.
Ooh, the ultimate biohack. Finally, we get to the juicy stuff.
I don't know what.
Give us the drip.
Hold it. This is not working properly.
Oh, technology. What do we need?
Oh, here it is. So here's where we were. So this is the DNA. I don't know why this didn't work, but here's the next one. So the consequences of deuterium are intensified because 98.8% of the molecules are water, okay? And that percentage of them are, 6 drops of every liter of that water happen to have deuterium, and they're messing with your body in a pathological way. And that's happening 24 hours a day. So we kind of did a rough calculation that as many as 400, that every day, 458 sextillion damaging deuterons are going into us. So, and you're when you're young, your mitochondria.
It's a big word, sextillion.
Yeah.
458.
So your body can, of course, regenerate mitochondria up to a certain point, and I believe this is going to become the new measure of aging. So here's how you biohack it. Here's people in the know. You have to consume at least 1 liter of 80 to 100 parts per million of depleted water. So let's say 100 part per million water is probably going to run you, let's say, at least $5 a day. That's 1 liter.
$5 a day. Okay.
And if you drink 2 liters, because you're drinking other things, you have to replace the other water, most of the other water you'd be getting in whatever form, whether it's in nut milks or energy drinks. You have to do coffee. You have to make all your coffee with this. So you're looking at, it's going to be a habit that's $5 to $10 a day.
Okay,
all right?
just get rid of the Starbucks.
Yeah, get rid of the Starbucks. So use it for all ingredient water. If you're making bone broth, use it for that. You don't have to cook your spaghetti in it or boil eggs in it. Don't worry about
Robert
that.
and I are reversing in age. We're like Benjamin Button. We are becoming the true Benjamin Button.
It's true.
Going back into the uterus.
It really helps to do intermittent fasting. It really helps to do intermittent fasting. And I will tell you that in speaking just recently, the last few days with probably some of you know Dr. Thomas Cowan, amazing,
love this book,
an amazing health
writer. If you haven't bought this book, buy this book. It's so good.
Yeah,
juicy nuggets inside here.
Yeah, you just get this book. You
it's
finish
easy
it.
to read.
I mean, this is like a book you can give for
read
Christmas
it in an afternoon
because it's fun and anybody can understand it. But this book caught my eye because somebody called me and he said, Robert, because they knew I was very much into ketone, okay, and they knew I was into deuterium depleted water, and they said, Robert, you better look at the table of contents. And so his select therapies of life happen to be number 1, ketone, okay, and number 9, deuterium depleted water. So
way to go, Dr. Cowan.
Dr. Cowan, yes,
he knows what's up.
Get that book.
Yeah,
let him get rich on this book. That's very good. So it helps, and without taking deuterium depleted water, I hope I'm not violating any privacy, but Dr. Cowan has gotten his deuterium down into the 125 just with dietary light.
He's in a ketogenic diet too.
Yeah, ketogenic, all the things, red light therapy, these all help to get your body to make deuterium depleted water. So he's done a remarkable job.
Okay, wait, go back to that. When you say help your body to make deuterium depleted water, you're talking about the metabolic water that your cells make.
Yes.
That water is mostly deuterium depleted.
Yes, maybe 60 to 80%.
Our body is making its own
It's
water.
making its own from you intermittent fasting, red light therapy, ketogenic diet.
That's why sunlight is so important. Grounding is important.
Absolutely.
If we want to truly hydrate, it's not just about the water that we're drinking, it's our lifestyle as well that plays a huge role in that, because our body is making its own metabolic water, and the water that your body is making is, like I said, deuterium depleted.
Yes, and you can read, replace carbs and grains with greens and animal and plant fats. The lowest natural food, okay? The lowest natural food in deuterium is the
butter.
Very disappointing lard, okay? So I don't know, just start eating at your Mexican grandmother's house.
Oh, it's so good. I remember when I was a kid, those refried beans.
Oh, of course. Anyway, sleep is a big thing.
That's what I grew up on. Beans
regular morning sunlight exposure, red light therapy, cold exposure, breath work, all of those things help your body perform making metabolic water. And here's a product that I happen to be involved in. It's called Lightwater. The company is Lightwater Scientific, and the website is drinklightwater.com. And this just shows you, it's a useful chart that shows you how long that if you took 1 liter a day of deuterium depleted water at 100 parts per million, in 45 days, you would already get yourself down to 132 ppm. If that 1 liter was 60 parts per million, then you would, in 45 days, you would get your body down to 172.
Robert, what's the ideal that we want to be at in our body's final?
If you're a healthy young person, okay? If you're a healthy young person, I probably would not go even below 125. Okay? But as things start to happen, as you get older, as you're trying to compensate for things, okay, that are going wrong, then I would go down to the next level, maybe 120 or 100 to 115. And then if you're addressing health issues, then it's a whole nother ballgame. We can't show you the things that just because we don't want to get in trouble of how deuterium depleted water is used therapeutically. It's very serious, okay? It's even beyond the level of ketone from a therapeutic standpoint. Maybe not in the global systemic way, but for certain things. And here's one that does, that I feel comfortable stating. One of the fastest things that responds to deuterium depletion is depression. Okay, I mean, literally, the studies show even in days there is a difference. Okay, just drinking this water exclusively. So it's quite amazing. Keto diet, you guys have an idea what this
Dr.
is for
Cowan's
sure.
book, it explains it a little better.
And this light water is reduced 94 to 97%. There's two kinds. There's actually a 5 ppm that's in a glass bottle. There's a 10 ppm that's in a plastic bottle and 2 liters. This is really the crown jewel of deuterium depleted water. Has contaminant free, et cetera, but if you're interested, drinklightwater.com. And there it is. And I guess I'm saying thank you, but I should have put you on there. So
hey,
she's saying
thank you. A-team over here. And thank you guys for taking the time to be here and just scoop up this valuable information. We're going to keep doing these hydration summits here and bring in more experts and interview them. And so thank you for coming on today.
And our goal next time is to have much more demonstrations. I mean, I brought tons of things to demonstrate, but we had to go too fast.
But share this with your friends. And if you would like to know more information, you can also go to tracyduhs.com, TracyDuhs, sign up for the newsletter. And when we do more of these webinars, you can be on the list. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Sending our love.
Thank you for attending.
Thank you. Bye.